you take the winningest coach in the last couple of years by percentage, and you're off to a rough start, but you're still in the playoffs. And then we're to start today and gone. And then so what does St. Louis do? Hey, we'll snag him up real fast.
And it's the third time. It's the third Jack Adams winning coach. And I saw a meme. I think that he went, was it 5 days until
5 days
Montgomery was out? Yeah. And the other two Jack Adams winning coaches they fired, it was both of them were less than 8 days before they had a new job.
Yeah.
All right, welcome to Hockeycards.sc, the podcast. And this week's episode, we have a very special guest with us, David from Tennessee, just outside Nashville. Welcome to the podcast, David.
Thank you so much for having me on, Patrick. I'm kind of shocked that you asked me to do this. But yeah, man, thrilled to sit here and talk some cards, some hockey, your group, anything you want to talk about.
Yeah, we kind of stumble on over each other on YouTube. Mm-hmm. I sort of found your YouTube channel where you're posting cards, a lot of vintage, both baseball and hockey, and some modern as well. Mm-hmm. And then you, for some reason, you started following my channel as well. Not sure why, but here we are.
Yeah, that's right. I tell you, that's been the greatest thing about YouTube. Honestly, is the connecting with people, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, genuinely, and I'm not just like saying this. So I have found some really awesome friends through YouTube. I was born and raised where I live. So we're almost all of my friends, and we've been dear friends, for 45 years almost now. Right. Mm-hmm. But I talk to a lot of my card collecting buddies and people like you on YouTube way more than I ever talked to them. And we all live in the same town, and we have our own group chats, and we have this and that. But it's just, none of those guys collected really, or haven't ever gotten back into it. So this is just, YouTube's been such a great opportunity to connect with so many people. And you specifically, it started because over the last, 3 or 4 years, really gotten more into hockey and hockey cards. Mm-hmm. And so it was just finding, and my whole crew was mostly baseball. And so it's just finding quality hockey channels and people like yourself and really kind of getting into that. That's what drew me to your channel. And then, and then it's just that correspondence, right? You stay with the channel when you correspond back and forth in the comments. And so, but yeah, man, so here we are.
Here we are. And I mean, collecting, how did you get into collecting originally? Was it something you did as a kid, or how did you start?
As a kid, so I was born in 80, so unfortunately really got into it in the height of junk wax. And really started with baseball. Hockey was not big around here then. I mean, it still really isn't, even though I'm just outside of Nashville. But I'm far enough away from Nashville, I guess. And where I live, I should explain this. In the Southeast United States, college football is king. It is religion. So everyone here is a Tennessee Vol fan or an Alabama Crimson Tide fan, whatever. And so it's just, that's what takes precedent here. But baseball cards as a kid, got into that big, got out of it, in the probably mid 90s, kind of got more into other stuff high school kids would get into. Right. And then, but hop back into it so when the Cubs won the World Series in 2016, now I should say this, I never got rid of any of my cards. They just all sat at my parents' house.
You have everything from when you were a kid.
I do.
Awesome.
No, I never had anything major. Yeah, I still got this stuff. I even still have. So when I was a kid, we called it playing house. I don't know what people call it, but where we would pretend different stuff, right? I'm the oldest of 3 siblings, but we're all pretty close in age. But one of my things to pretend and play was card shop owner. And I had this one brown case, which I still have. It sits over there. It's actually used to hold silverware. You know what I'm saying? It's got the the fork and spoon grooves,
Yeah.
but that's where I put my most special cards that were special to me. And I would like, set up shop and I would pretend to sell them to my siblings and all that kind of stuff. And like, but I had other kids in the neighborhood, we would trade and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, got back into it in 2016 when the Cubs won the World Series. And what got me back into it was I got on, I wanted to get, something to commemorate that with, right? Because that was a huge deal for anybody over there that may not know. It was 108 years in the making, right?
Yeah.
So that was a long drought. And but one of the things that they had was just Topps had a little blaster box essentially commemorating it, right? And so I ordered that and it came in and I never opened it. But what it did make me do was like go back into my cards a little bit. And then it kind of dawned on me, like, how cool would it be to collect all the players that won the last Cubs World Series, but actually they're playing day cards. So you're talking tobacco cards, turn of the century. Yeah.
Like 108 years old.
Yeah. So I'll show one. And this one, people that know my channel are sick of seeing this, but like this card right here, right? This is probably my favorite card. That's a T205 Mordecai Brown. So that card's, from 1909, 1911, those years. Because it dawned on me, like, I'm a grown adult with a job. I can buy these things if I really want to. And so I started, getting on eBay. And that was my first foray really into eBay and looking this stuff up. Like, you know what? I can afford a lot of this stuff. Well, starting that collection got me into other stuff. Like, man, what were some cards of the 80s that I just never had but always wanted, right? So like a Ricky Henderson rookie card, for example. So they got, oh man, I can afford this. And so that kind of started the snowball effect for collecting that has started now. In terms of hockey, though, I had some hockey when I was young, but not a lot.
Yeah.
But I had a friend of mine who his dad way back in the day used to buy cases and cases of cards and would never open them. Kind of that whole classic. I'm sure you guys might have had it there. We definitely had it here. People used to think they would retire on baseball cards. I'd pay for my college with my Shaquille O'Neal rookies and all this and that.
Investing in cards,
big time.
Yeah.
And so this guy had bought cases and cases and cases of cards, and they were just sitting in like a storage unit for years. And he called his son, who was my friend, and he said, hey man, help me sell some of this stuff. I'll give you half the money or whatever it was. So I went over to this guy's apartment one day and started digging through stuff and was helping him because my buddy didn't really collect and I did. So I was helping him, and he's like, hey man, take couple of boxes or whatever you want for helping me. And he had some hockey, and I'm like, you know what? Because I'd gotten back into really watching it at that point.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, he's got some like pro set hockey from like 91 and some score from back in the day, dudes. I remember. I'm like, I'm going to take a couple of these. And I ripped them on my channel. My channel's been around since 2017, I think, but I pulled a lot of the videos from, so it looks like it's only been around for half that time, but really it's been around a lot longer than that. And it was so much fun ripping that stuff.
Yeah.
And just bringing back kind of those memories. And then my LCS, I would go into it and they would have these old packs of like, 1990s hockey. I'm like, oh man, that's pretty cool. And then, but then that kind of, and then of course, fantasy sports really did it. Got me into collecting more hockey. So yeah, man. And been going nonstop. My hockey collection is still small, but rapidly expanding because I've kind of lost most interest in modern baseball cards outside of a few players, just because I could go on for days about how the modern baseball hobby and Topps fanatics is kind of ruining it. In many regards, and hockey, and Upper Deck, and I've always said this, makes such a beautiful product. Even just the base cards, right? Compare them to most base baseball cards. Yeah, it's night and day. Yeah. And I've always said I really wish Upper Deck would get back into baseball somehow, with the licensing, because man, they can make a sweet product. I'll tell you that.
Well, how would you compare? I mean, how would you compare baseball cards and to the NHL cards? I mean, we're approaching that subject.
Yeah.
So how would you compare them?
So there's actually a big influential YouTuber who's out there is John Mangini. He's got an awesome channel, great guy. He's got every card imaginable, and literally his goal is to collect one of every set ever made, right? Your oddball stuff, your 1800 stuff, whatever it is. He has a thing out right now that I might do a VR for if I have time. But basically, like, if you were hobby president, what would you change? Like, what are some things you might change, one or two? One of mine is really, and this is where I see a big kind of discrepancy with baseball and hockey, is base rookie cards. I would make those great again, to use a Trumpism, right? Whatever, make base rookies good again. Because I can't tell you the last time, maybe 2011 is the last time there's been a great base rookie card in baseball, right? Because there's so many trillions of parallels. So it's no longer the best stars of today. This past year, there's a guy named Ellie Dela Cruz, right? Big chase guy. And for me personally, he was, because he played minor league baseball here in Chattanooga. And I got to watch him live a few times. But like, his base card, I mean, you could buy 3 packs and pull 6 of them. Like, they're worthless. I mean, they really are, other than just to have 1 or 2 to collect, because, well, there's the gold, and then there's the red, the yellow, the orange, the blue, the Roy G. Biv, and then it goes beyond the primary colors, and you start mixing this other stuff. But then there's all of those colors in speckled cards, and then there's all the speckled ones in like some kind of other thing, and then it's like you talk about all the time, manufactured scarcity, right? That's exactly what it is. But at least with hockey, the young guns, which I guess I would almost consider like the base rookie, right? Kind of seem to be still desirable, right? And I know that there's parallels of that too, right? You got your outbursts.
Absolutely.
But I do think, and I know that they are overproducing. I get that. But at least to a point where to me, it's nowhere near reaching the levels of baseball in terms of that sort of manufactured scarcity, I would say, at least in the base sets. Now, baseball has the same thing like we have with hockey, where it's like they've got their elite level stuff that someone like me is never going to sniff. Like a suitcase, what is it? I think it's called Exquisite. And there's something else that like literally comes in a suitcase. Luminaries, stuff like that, and there might be 3 cards in it, and it's $3,000. I'm not doing that. But just the young guns are cool, because to me that's like a base rookie that still matters, right? And when I grew up, cards in the 80s, your Ron Sandbergs, there was 3 of them. You had his Pops. I'm sorry, 4 of them if you count O-Pee-Chee, right? His Fleer and his Don. That's it. And you wanted those cards. That was a big deal. Now it's not a big deal. And it just, that kind of bums me out as someone that loved it so much as a kid. And don't get me wrong, I still love pulling the rookies, and I'm still going to collect them. But I'm not going to go out of my way to do, other than just a few players. I'm not a huge set builder. I'll find a set that I want to collect every once in a great blue moon. Last year, there was Stadium Club Chrome in baseball, which I kind of equate to the the allure of this year. Just such a beautiful set. It's like, all right, I want that, and I can access that. Kicking myself for not buying a hobby box versus blasters, since you pointed that out. But yeah, so that to me is a huge difference. And I don't know how much of that is Fanatics driven, since they bought Topps and all that stuff, and it's becoming a monopoly. But yeah, that to me is what it is. That manufactured scarcity, but ramped up to a obscene level.
I mean, where I'm at in Europe, of course, hockey is very big, and baseball is not. It's a sport that you know of, and you've seen it sometimes, but it's not something you follow typically, and there are very few collectors over here. But from what I gather, from what I hear in the discussion around the hobby, is that it seems to have, I'm not sure if I misunderstood this, but it seems like it's just exploded with the amount of releases and the print runs for baseball over the last couple of years. It's gone mad. And it's like we're moving back to the 90s again, where it's like the junk wax era again. And there are so many products. And I mean, for hockey, there's like close to 30 releases in a year. That's a
Mhm.
lot. And
Yeah.
like you said, way back when there were like 2 or 3 or 4 rookie cards. I mean, Wayne Gretzky has 2 rookie cards, and they look exactly the same, but one says Topps and one says Peachy. And
Right.
and now there's speculation that Connor Bedard will probably be the first player to have more than 1,000 different rookie cards. If you count like all the parallels and all the inserts that will be released this year, there will be more than 1,000 rookie cards of him. So,
and that's insane. That's
so
insane.
it's absolutely exploding. You know, like the interest is exploding, and then we're trying to capitalize on that. And I'm just afraid that the desire to capitalize on this interest is so big that sort of the hobby implodes in on itself, like it did in the 90s, right?
I definitely think it will. I think it will at some point, unless someone gets. But it's like they try to disguise that, and you always point this out. So huge kudos to you for your breaks and your videos and all that stuff. You always point this out. That manufactured scarcity. That's how they disguise junk wax level production, right? You know, and there was some channels that do, and that they do math that. I left my abacus in the other room. I can't figure it out, right? But they can look at a hobby box and roughly estimate the print runs of different cards, right?
Yeah.
And it's insane levels.
It's insane.
And that's just even the base.
Yeah.
But then again, when I'm talking about, there's a color parallel, every color of the rainbow and then some. And then there's, you know, shiny this, sparkle that, mojo this. I can't keep up with the names.
Yeah.
It's the same image, just a little bit, shines a little bit differently. And each of those is numbered to a different thing. Well, if there's 10,000 different numbered cards and they're each numbered to whatever, you know, it's an obscene level.
Then it isn't rare at all, right? If you have like 13 different parallels that are numbered to something quite low, and the total amount of numbered cards is more than 2,000, then it isn't rare anymore. Then
correct. And it's weird too, because like it definitely, and maybe it was always this way, maybe I just didn't realize it as a kid, but it's definitely the kids collecting stuff is kind of gone out of it. It's all about the money. It's all about adults making money. And then it's funny to me to see, I've never gone to the National here, you know, the huge net, but like you see all these videos of people, and it's like these kids, these like 9 and 10-year-old kids carrying backpacks and suitcases full of cards and wheeling and dealing like they're the Wolves of Wall Street. And I'm like, my God, it's all about the money. Do the kids even care?
Yeah.
You know, or is it all about that just hustling to get that money? It's funny too, because, you know, here in America, football is far and away the most popular sport, and football cards are wildly popular. Basketball, I would guess, is probably overtaken baseball in terms of popularity. And those cards go for insane numbers, which I don't collect either. But yet baseball, even though it's waned in popularity and is to people like me who are a little bit more purists, it's really waning in popularity. You know, there are things that happen every year that kind of piss us off a little bit more and more and more, to the point where like, okay, I'm just going all in on hockey. And, you know, I mean, but it's starting to get to that point. But baseball cards are still wildly popular. And kind of one thing that tells me is it just about the money? And that's all it is, because no one's watching baseball. You can buy seats to a lot of baseball games. You know, no one's watching it on TV, yet baseball cards are still wildly popular. It's all about the money, man.
Yeah.
All about it. And I just don't collect that way. Can't afford to.
And I mean, everybody collects in their way, right? So we all collect in different ways. Everybody has their budget, different limits. But what I like about hockey, I'm not sure about the other sports, but what I like about hockey is that there is something to collect that looks beautiful. I mean, a lot of these cards are a work of art, including the base cards in many of the series. So there are things that you can collect, not invest in to flip it to make money. But if you want to collect, there are things to collect at any budget. And I like that a lot about hockey. You have some sets that have fantastic base cards that look stunning and that's worth absolutely nothing. and you can easily put together a set of that with your favorite players, for example. So
Oh, absolutely. And there's I remember a few years ago, whatever was it, 2021, when Lafreniere was his thing was coming out. But I did just, I bought some blasters back then and was just like, man, this product is so superior in every way. Just the base. Like, man, this is they make such a good product. And you're right, there are some cards that are just gorgeous and they don't cost any money. And then especially there's team collecting, and I love to collect, Predators and stuff like that. But there's also player collecting, which is where, for me personally, fantasy comes in, right? So it just you start to really like these players on teams that you otherwise might not care about. Well, I was just going to say, if they're not the McDavids or Bedards of the world, you can get their stuff dirt cheap. So like, where was one here? I'll try to show a card here in a second, but like, I'll just JT Miller, for example, right?
Yeah.
A great all-around player, fun to watch, and I hope he's fine now. But but just I picked up, a card of his, a patch auto on card for like, you can get them for a few dollars.
Yeah.
Graded. And it just like, that's the, how is that possible? But they're just a lot cheaper. Like, anybody apart from the big dogs, you can get for no money.
Yeah.
And it's great. I love that aspect of it.
One fun thing about the fantasy as well is that when you get into that, you start to appreciate players that you didn't know even existed, because they have some specific talent. Like, this guy blocks 15 shots or whatever, and you didn't even know he existed. And then all of a sudden you realize why he's on the team, right?
Well, like if you're in like if you're in like a bangers league or whatever, where hits and blocks are much more heavily weighted, like Jeremy Lauzon is all of a sudden Austin Matthews.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And like especially in like categories or roto leagues, it makes you, and I did the same thing with baseball. You get these guys that are like never going to be stars. Their cards are never going to be worth anything, but you don't care because you enjoy watching the player. They're doing good for your team, and they're just, you can get them pretty cheap. You know what I'm saying? And there's guys that are, an example this year in baseball. I had a really nice fantasy year, which usually I don't. But there's a guy that, is one of those guys you call a league winner, right? That comes on late, maybe halfway through the year. No one ever knew anything about him. There's a guy named Xavier Edwards. Played on the worst team in the league, but he came on and was stealing bases like a machine, hitting like a machine. No, he doesn't hit home runs, so he's not going to make headlines. But, in terms of fantasy, he's league winner. And those are the kind of guys I like to collect too. And, same thing in hockey.
But I know you've prepared for us. I think you've prepared for us your top 3 baseball and top 3 hockey cards.
Yeah. So this is like, ask me again next week. And it might be a completely different top 3, right? That's like asking my favorite kid, and so, and again, sometimes the soon to be 18-year-old is, but she's a teenager. So ask me next week, she might not be. Baseball is a little easier just because I've been doing it a lot longer. I've already shown the one, the Mordecai Brown. And the thing too that some of these are special is because like this card right here, a YouTuber sold me. And I never would have been able to afford this card otherwise, because he cut me a incredible. He honestly sold me this card because he knew I was trying to complete that run, because this was the last piece I needed to complete that starting lineup of that 1908 team. And he knew it, and he had it, and he didn't collect. So he cut me, he probably saved me $300. Sold this to me at an absolute steal because he was such a nice guy. So that's another part of it that makes it.
That's another narrative about the hobby, right? Where we're just talking about that everyone's in it to make money, everyone's in it to flip cards, everyone is trying to make a buck. But then there's this other side to the hobby as well, with collectors who care about the collecting community and who do things like this, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And it is it's incredible the amount of care packages I've gotten over the years, and I've sent a bunch too. And that, I get more fun out of sending them than I do getting them, for sure. But just for no reason, people send stuff other than just kindness. The collector community especially is just one of the nicest communities I've ever, I used to be, it's funny when I started on YouTube, it was like, I was nervous to get into like a chat, like if I was watching a break or something, which is kind of how it all got started watching it. But I'd be nervous, like, man, these people are going to tell me to go pound sand, but no, you meet really good friends doing it that way.
Yeah.
Sorry to jump around. Another one again. So Cubs guy, this is baseball. This is to me, and I apologize. I'm in the lighting capital of Chattanooga here in my room. It's terrible lighting and glare, but this is and I don't know what to do with my hands as Will Ferrell says, but this is a 1957 Topps Ernie Banks. You can't tell because of the glare, but it's one of the most beautiful images, and in person the color pops. It's well centered. And again, I'm very much a by the card, not the grade. And on vintage especially, I'll live in 3s and 4s. I don't care about modern's a little different, but with vintage, I'm one of those that's kind of a stickler for centering. I want to really I don't care if the corners on a 1950s cards or bank, don't care. I want a little wear and tear. I want it to look like it's been around, because to me, each card has a story to tell. You know, this card was made and came out the year my dad was born. So who all has owned it? I think about what kid had it, what adult had it, what's the journey it's been on through its life. Like it's, like it's a person. And then of course, this is I guess you would call it one of the chalk answers, right? But this one, I was after a long time. Many people consider it the most beautiful baseball card, if you look at polls and stuff. But the 53 Bowman color of Pee Wee Reese, I was thrilled to add that one. And again, that was one where I never could have really afforded it. But one year at work, everybody pulled together money and bought me an eBay gift card. I didn't know. And I was like, whoa, well, what is this? And, all my employees did that. And I was like, man, I didn't get y'all nothing, but thank you. So, and was able to get that one. So as of today, those are my 3 favorite. Again, ask me next week, and there might be 3 different ones for baseball.
But that last one, that looked that looked stunning. I mean, the colors and everything. Is that a photo or is it a painting?
No. This one's not. Now in that set though, there are photos. This is many consider like one of the first action cards. Maybe it is the first action card, right? But there's an image somewhere that this was taken from, right? Yeah. But the 53 Bowman color is probably my favorite set of all time, because every card, I should have brought more out, but every card, even the ones that are photos, there's something about the color. I don't know what they do to it. It is the most beautiful set of cards, one of them I've ever seen. They're all just stunning cards. And, there's some people who collect the whole set. I'd love to do that. But, just fantastic cards. I should have brought more out. But anyway, for hockey, it's a little bit different. So, of course, I love vintage, and I'm really trying to get more into vintage hockey. There's a channel, TJ Mack, Vintage Cards and Nostalgia, and he, for years now, has shown the most incredible vintage hockey. And you see this stuff from the 50s and 60s, and it's just like, my God, that is gorgeous. And I've got to get into some of that. I actually just won one last night, but this one I'll show because I've had this one. This is the really first awesome 50s Parkhurst I picked up. I don't know if you can see that right there. So that's Doug Harvey, and that is just such a beautiful card. All these sets, or all the cards in this set, are phenomenal. I mean, they're just beautiful images. I actually picked up his 53 Parkhurst last night. Same slab, I think graded even a little higher, and I got it for like $30. Yeah. For one of the greatest defensemen of all time. You can't beat that. I mean, you can't beat that, right?
That's the thing, I think, also about, because I'm more into, or I am into modern cards. That's what I collect. And the YouTube channel I have is a lot about, new products coming out. What can you expect to get in a product? Like really diving into checklists and card designs and things. But the thing is that, to me, modern cards, the hype around modern day releases, to me, is driven a lot from FOMO, right? It's like you want it's a new release with new rookies, right? So I need to get my hands on that before anybody else does, right? So
Yep.
this fear of missing out is driving people to buy this stuff, and for some reason, the combined with this FOMO is some sort of notion that the hobby loves potential but doesn't
Yeah.
recognize performance, right? So
Yes.
so you have this like, okay, here's a rookie card of a guy who's played one NHL game. I will pay you all my money that I own to get this card. And typically in like a year, if you look at flagship in hockey, the 3 releases they typically have 130 different players on rookie cards, on the Young Guns cards, right? So 130 players. If you're lucky, 30 of them will have an NHL career, right?
Yep.
And the rest will be in AHL or in Europe, in leagues somewhere else, and they will never make an NHL career. And out of the 30 that will make an NHL career, exactly 0 of them will be a new Gretzky or Connor McDavid, or like one in 20 years or in 15 years or something, right? And still at every new release, there's a massive amount of money paid for these rookie cards of players that everyone knows absolutely nothing about. And still, when you look then at older cards of players who have actually accomplished something, unless they're named like Gretzky or Gordie Howe or Connor McDavid, right? Then you can pick them up for almost nothing. And I find very fascinating. Very fascinating.
It is. So what does everybody say about Bedard? He's the next Gretzky, right?
That's
what they say.
Yeah.
And that's why his young, especially, when they were first coming out and all this stuff and first getting graded, especially, and this goes back to people buying grades.
Yeah.
Thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Well, and he's the next Gretzky. I could buy a Wayne Gretzky rookie if I'm willing to take it in like a 3 or a 4 for less money than I could buy the potential next Gretzky. Like, it makes no sense.
I think the first PSA 10 Young Guns of Bedard, I think, sold for $7,600 roughly.
That's insane. That's completely insane.
And for that, you will get a genuine, authentic Gretzky rookie card, which is graded at, I'm not sure what, but like if it grades a 1, you can probably pick it up for like $500, right? So
yes.
Yeah. And Gretzky is he's proven himself. Let's put it that way. He was like now you alerted me to the fact now that when Connor McDavid hit 1,000 points last week, he was the 4th fastest player and 4th youngest player to hit 1,000 points. And you pointed out to me that Wayne Gretzky was, of course, the fastest player to hit 1,000 points. He did it in just over 400 games. He was 23 years old when he hit 1,000 points in the NHL. But he was also the second fastest, like you said, because he got to 2,000 points faster than anyone else has gotten their first 1,000 points, right?
Yes. So, and it wasn't by much. Like, it was like a 5 or 6 game difference, I think, something like that in his first 1,000 and his second 1,000. Yeah. So that is never going to happen again, most likely.
Never ever.
You could have his rookie card in like a mid-grade, or you could have someone that's never going to sniff doing that.
Yeah.
It makes no, and that's a lot in baseball too. That happens. The way I kind of look at it is modern cards, and with hockey, I'm 95% modern, right? Like I love collecting the players, and in baseball, I collect modern for the players I love to watch, and enjoy. I clearly never saw Doug Harvey play. I clearly never saw Pee Wee Reese play a game. I never saw Babe Ruth. I never saw Terry Sawchuk. Name the player.
Yeah.
I love history, so collecting the history of those guys, and then you learn more about them. I love, baseball documentaries that are historic in nature, right? I love hearing old stories, and then that's what I love too about trying to really get more into vintage hockey is learning some of those old stories too, and even sports that I don't collect or even watch anymore. I used to love basketball in the 80s. Even up into the mid-90s. I mean, I played I'm 6'7", so I played basketball, right? But like but it's unwatchable to me now, and I sure as hell don't collect it. But like some of the stories, but if you put a game on from the mid-80s, like just a rerun of a regular season game, I'd watch it right now. I'd turn it on and watch it and would love it. That's why I collect vintage. It's hearing about those stories. It's connecting to the past. It's that kind of thing. And I love every second of it. The modern guys, I'm not collecting to invest because, one day they're going to be the next whoever. If I really want that, I'll just buy that whoever, right? I'm not going to pay however much for some basketball player when I can get a Michael Jordan rookie for, if I'm willing to take a little bit lower grade, as long as the eye appeal looks good to me, I don't care. And that's kind of the way it's like a baseball. Shohei Ohtani right now is the best baseball player I've probably ever seen. And people compare him to Babe Ruth. I think he's better. So I collect a lot of Ohtani because I enjoy watching him play, and the stuff he does is historic. So to me, it's like, okay, this must have been what it was like for some person to watch Babe Ruth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And, and so now I don't have the money to have an actual Babe Ruth card from his playing days, but I do have some other Babe Ruth stuff. And it's like, okay. And it's just kind of that connection. But yeah, man, but for modern, and it's funny, baseball, I'm pretty much all vintage, except for a few players like Ohtani and some Cubs guys and people like that, and some cheap fantasy pieces. Hockey, I'm still a little bit way more modern because it's the guys I love to watch, and I'm trying to get more and more and more into the vintage. And there's just some stunning cards, too, in those vintage sets. Even base card. These aren't. I just happen to have these laying here because these are my pickups from the show. But like, I love a good goalie card, right? So look at this. Look at this Ken Dryden. This card. Oops, sorry. Okay. Yeah. That's just 1977 O-Peachy Glossy. It's a subset. Just the mask and the everything, the old pads. This particular card, I mean, the guy sold it to me, I don't know, $5 or $6. It was dirt cheap. Yeah. That set typically has rounded corners. These squared off corners are more rare. So worth a little bit more. But that's just a cool image. I love those images. Like this Bobby Clark. This is from 78, I believe it is. That's just a cool image on a vintage card. It's base. It costs nothing. I love that. And then you learn, and I missed out on a Bobby Clark rookie card actually a few days ago, and kicking myself because it went for an insanely cheap price, and I forgot about it, and so I forgot to bid. And anyway,
but there are so many cards in circulation as well. It kind of makes your head spin. I mean, if you look at for hockey, if you look at Upper Deck, they release roughly 30 products in a year, right? 30 different hockey products, and the checklist has roughly 4,000 unique cards to it, more or less in a set. Which means, of course, it's not like when we were kids, when you could build an entire set. That's never going to happen. Right. But 30 products and 4,000 cards. That's in 5 years. That's over 600,000 unique cards. So I mean, just that there will be cards there that just fall through the cracks that no one cares about, and that are still amazing cards. And one example of this is my son. He's a Bruins fan because the first game we ever watched, he's 10, and the first game we ever watched when he was 6, I think, was Rangers versus Bruins, and I'm a Rangers fan, so of course he couldn't support Rangers, so he chose Bruins. All right, so he picked up a card a little while back of a player called a Swedish player called Carl Soderberg, which is he did almost 600 NHL games. So he was an established NHL player, not a star, but an established NHL player, right? And he played for Malmo, which is our local team. So he played for Malmo before he went to the NHL, and he played for Malmo after he came back. And after he came back, he quit his career last year. So we've been to watch him play, right? We've seen him play live for Malmo when we've been at the arena. So he knows who he is. Yeah. He bought a rookie auto patch card with an on-card hard-signed auto and quad jersey patches, multicolor patches, numbered to 50, and he paid $2 for it. So I mean, with the amount of cards produced, if you're not Austin Matthews or Connor Bedard or whoever, some of these cards will be extremely cheap in a few years. So you may want to consider that when you pay $35 for a Young Guns card of a player you've never heard of before. I mean,
for sure.
In 5 years, it will be $1. So.
Yeah. Well, and even to your point, and this kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier with you about like base rookies and stuff. Now, this isn't a true base rookie, but like if you're willing to go non-Young Guns on some of the Austin, so like some of my favorite cards, like, there's a Connor McDavid O-Pee-Chee Platinum rookie, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This card doesn't cost any money, relatively speaking, right? You're going to pay $1,000 plus, for his Young Guns, but there's, and then here's another one. From Metal. I mean, just, again, no money. Same elite player, same year. It's not a Young Gun.
Still a rookie card. Yeah.
Still a rookie card. And it looks beautiful, and it's like here's an Austin Matthews. Now this one doesn't have an auto. Now I really wish my lighting sucks, but this card really pops in person and it really, but it, again, an Austin Matthews rookie, one of the thick ones. I forget exactly what it's called, but it's numbered, and just not very much money because it's not a Young Guns.
Yeah.
And then again, I know I've shown this one ad nauseum too, but like the Sidney Crosby and Alex, God, I'm terrible at this, man. I'm sorry. But the Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin, dual rookie showdown.
Yeah.
It's not a Young Gun, so it's not expensive. But it still is rookie. I love that kind of stuff. And again, this one, it's a Sergei Bobrovsky Young Gun. I've shown this one, but it's that retro Young Gun. But to me, the color, that blue kind of, it's a gorgeous card. That's one of those, you see it, you got to have it, right?
Yeah.
But like you said, the on-card autos don't cost any money if it's not a stud player.
If it's not a stud player.
I showed that Dougie Hamilton rookie auto numbered or whatever it was, 50 or 99. I don't even remember anymore. But I've got it here somewhere. I won't dig it out to save time, but like it was $1.99.
Yeah.
Already graded.
Yeah.
$1.99. Someone lost a lot of money grading that card.
Did we finish your top 3 of your hockey card collection, or did we just?
Those were definitely some of them. I have here's that JT Miller. That one I was showing earlier.
Yeah.
And that's just a gorgeous card, right? And that thing was no money. And it's a hard signed auto. It's I love a subset I fell in love with the Super Actions from 81.
Mm-hmm.
And I was after this one for a long time. Here's the Gretzky. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm way over here with it. Give everyone Blair Witch sickness. But these cards are so hard to find well-centered. And if you do, you're paying through the nose. Mm-hmm. This one is not great centering on it, right? Top to bottom. Now, left to right, it's spot on. So that one I loved, found it at a price. But, so picked up the Gretzky. And then the LCS, here's these other ones that are, again, just great images. Mike Bossy and Tony Esposito. Those are sets I love to collect. Of course, got to throw some Preds love. I love this Roman Josi auto.
That's a beautiful card.
Show there. Beautiful. Yeah. And I have quite a lot of Preds autos and stuff like that in there. And again, I'm trying to collect, 80s Gretzky. I really want to collect, especially when he was with the Oilers. So I've been trying to piece together all of these. Dig these out real quick. The blacked out.
Wayne Gretzky, the ones with the ones with the scratch off.
The scratch. I want them still blacked out.
Yeah.
So I've got, and there's this base, which is mostly blacked out. This is a tough one to get at a decent price. But there's a couple more that I need to get that are just like leaders cards.
Uh-huh.
And I've got a couple on the watch list, and I'll get those, and I'll have them all. Just there's something about having that blacked out. But there was, my God, another one I'm kicking myself on, man. Ray Bourque rookie from the same set, blacked out, beautifully centered, and it went for so cheap. And I was at work, and I forgot to put a bid, and I missed out on it. But it is what it is, right? It wasn't meant to be.
But I mean, you're onto something here, right? There are so many beautiful cards, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are so many shiny things, and it's like Pokemon, right? You got to catch them all, and that has potentially devastating effect for your personal financial situation if you can't control that urge, sort of. So
yes.
me personally, when I got back, I like you, I collected when I was a kid. Unfortunately, I didn't keep my cards, so I didn't have anything, and then I had a short 35-year break, and then I came back to collecting a couple of years ago. And started up again, and then it's like, oh, look at this is nice, oh, this looks fantastic, oh, this is shiny. So now I'm this close to having to buy a second house just to house my cards right now, right?
Yeah.
So right now I'm sort of in a process of maybe realigning, repurposing what I collect, because I'm not sure what I'm going to do with all these cards, right? So and then you start thinking, okay, so what do I want to collect? Do I want to collect the team? Do I want to collect the player? How many players? Do I want to collect the set? And where I am right now, I think that I will just collect things that look pretty. I think that's like, I think that's going to be the divider, because it's so easy to get stuck in some sort of autistic mode. I got to collect all the cards, right?
Yeah.
Well, if I have 2,000 cards of a player, when am I going to look at them? That, at least to me, that's an issue, right? So maybe I should just collect the pretty cards of this player, the ones I like, right? So and then we're back to that. There are some very beautiful base cards, and then there are some very beautiful high-end cards like the cup that cost you like a fortune, and you need to sell off a kidney first before you buy one. But they're all beautiful, right?
For sure. And like even some like this one, I'll pull this one out because I'm trying to get all these from 2016 Upper Deck Canvas, and they did this. What do you call it? The and that harkens back to Upper Deck in the 90s when I was collecting baseball that had cards like that. Just gorgeous. I mean, I love that image. Nate McKinnon, I've got his somewhere in here. Yeah, here's McKinnon's. Just beautiful cards. They don't cost anything. But they're great looking cards, right? I also kind of love getting the oddball stuff. Right. So like the stuff that's like food issue cards, things like that. I've shown this before, like for hockey, the Wayne Gretzky Red Rooster card. You know what I'm saying? From like, and if you can find the long-haired version, it's more than his rookie card. But just stuff like that just fascinates me. And I'm kind of like you. I want the card to look good. I'm much more of a player collector now than team collector, because when I got back into, I was trying to collect the team stuff, but like everybody gets traded, everybody gets sent away, and everybody, my favorite current baseball player, really is still Anthony Rizzo, who was a Cub forever, but now he's a Yankee. I'm still collecting him. But when I say collecting him, I mean, I've got pretty much everything I can get that I want, that I could possibly afford. But still, I'm much more player than team collector now. I'll root for my team, but I'll collect the players I want. I'm not going to spend big bucks on some rookie auto for the Cubs or the Preds or someone that's going to be traded away in 2 years.
No, you really need to. I mean, if you really need to sort of find that franchise player that they're building everything around, and who is going to stick around for like 10 years or something, and everyone else will be traded sooner or later. So
Yep, exactly. But you hit the nail on the head, man. It's all about eye appeal, because these things are art. In my opinion, they're art. And like, I have them displayed everywhere in my room. My card room was out of hand with the display. Like I would set it up like if I were like letting people in to go to like an art exhibit. And then along came the boy, and so we've had to cut a lot of that out and take a lot of it down. Otherwise, it gets thrown all over the place. So it's not like that anymore. But it was, and I even saved the pictures from when I had it, when I knew I was going to take it all down, because I was like, well, one day when he's older, I'm going to put all this back up. Much to my wife's chagrin, But I'm like you. What am I going to do with all this stuff one day? And
But David, I want to touch also on your YouTube channel, right? You have a YouTube channel. What made you?
I wouldn't recommend it, but yeah. Nobody go watch it. There's plenty of other better ones out there. This is it's not worth your time. But yeah, got a YouTube channel.
What made you take that step onto YouTube, displaying your card? And you make videos regularly. I'd say you post a video every week, roughly.
Now I have been since we connected, yes.
Yeah.
But I do go through long stretches where I don't.
Uh-huh.
It just depends on I get in and out of the mood, honestly. I always watch.
Uh-huh.
And you know what I'm saying? Like I don't miss too many videos, but it just depends, honestly. I got into it, how I got into it, and I'll try to go fast with this. I had spinal surgery 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was laid up for like 6 weeks.
Oh,
and
ouch.
Didn't have a TV in my bedroom at the time because my wife didn't want a TV in the bedroom. And so I got to watch something. It was and stumbled on it. Just happened one day on my YouTube feed. I got on YouTube and there was a card breaker video or something. Like, people actually watch this stuff. Sure enough. Yeah. And then that morphed into like, okay, I'm going to catch a couple live streams of people ripping stuff. Man, people rip stuff because I don't go into Walmart. I don't go into Target. Back, you know what I'm saying? Like, so this was all like because when I got back into collecting, it was all singles on eBay. I never even thought about ripping stuff.
Yeah. For
the first little bit. And then started seeing that. And like I say, for a long time, I would see these chats and I'd be kind of like somebody might rip a card and like have a question about the player or whatever. And I would know the answer, but I almost be afraid to type it. You know what I'm saying? Cause I'm like, who's this jackass in here? You know, like, am I allowed in the club?
Yeah.
But finally did, and it was so stupid thinking back on it, but finally did a couple times and actually connected through one of those with a guy named Steve, Vintage Card Steve. He's a good buddy of mine. He lives in Nebraska. But we connected and started talking back and forth. And then another guy, Clint, who has a channel called Swing Away Sports Cards. He doesn't really make videos as much right now. He's kind of on a hiatus, but they're my chat buddies. Like, we don't go a day without talking. Mm-hmm. But basically, started talking to them. Now, Steve had a channel already. Clint didn't. Steve had a channel, his Vintage Card Steve, and would show really awesome stuff. And he was a Cubs collector and a vintage cards collector. So I would tell him about what I was working on, about that T206, T205 set.
Yeah.
And he was like, man, you've got to start a channel and show this. You've got to show it. You got to show it. You got to show it. And I didn't want to. And eventually he talked me into it. And once I did it once and had some people comment, I was hooked. Yeah. And so when I very first started my channel, that first year or so, I was doing videos quite a lot. I mean, at least one or two a week, to a degree where I was like, man, this is probably too much. Like, people don't want to watch this much of me doing this, like showing this stuff. So I kind of wish I hadn't scrubbed all those old videos, because some of them, like, there was some pretty cool stuff shown that when I showed them, no one was collecting that much of it. And now people are. And it's like, man, I showed that whole thing back then. But but that's what started. And then, like, so talking to those guys, and then like Clint started a channel about the same time I did. So it was connected with him. And then you start connecting and connecting. And then the next thing you know, that's when fantasy came in. Mm-hmm. And it was like, okay, guys, I want to start a fantasy league of you awesome YouTubers that love these players and love to collect and love all this. And when we did that, it was on at that point, because it was like, okay, now guys, why don't we start a chat group? Talk smack to each other or whatever, you know, or show. And then we started our chat group. We use WhatsApp because, you know, there's people like Clint's in Japan. We got people in Canada. It's all over. But that really morphed into, like, I mean, I talk to these people every day, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be about sports. It could be about whatever. You know, we talk about our personal lives and stuff in there, like, but it's all like very much almost like a brotherhood now.
There are some fantastic people in this hobby, and then there are some people who aren't, and are mostly trying to scam you out of your money. But there are some great people in the hobby. And I think that's an international thing, because I have the same experience over here, is in meeting people through the hobby who are just great people, super friendly, super kind, super generous with their time, generous with the cards and their knowledge, right? So it's a nice thing about the hobby. But your YouTube channel, I know I watched some videos of you showing these tobacco cards, and you do something on your YouTube channel that I really like a lot. Just reconnecting back to the things you said about why you collect, that you collect on history, right? And you share those histories with the cards on the YouTube channel. And I think it's amazing. I mean, I don't know anything almost about baseball, but I watch your baseball vintage card videos every single time because there's such a great story behind every card, and it's so interesting. It's like a mini documentary listening to them.
Well, I really appreciate that. And that it kind of sometimes I feel guilty because I don't do it as much as I used to. Like I really used to break down and like name stats and name all this really cool, like really delve into a player. There was a series I did on the original channel. So a set that I was collecting back then, which was for baseball, an extremely affordable way to get some of the best players of all time, Hall of Fame players, vintage. They're oversized cards. It's from 1964. They were called the Topps Giants. Small set, but my goal back then was to get all the Hall of Famers. Well, you could buy them already graded for no money. And I'm talking like the biggest names in the game and in their playing days. But on the backs of these cards, excuse me, it was almost like a newspaper clipping. And all I would do for the video is I would just read it. I would just show the card and I would just read about what it was. And it was story time with David M., I think is what I called it. And I would just try to like almost like an ASMR thing or something. Just read the story because it's way more interesting. I've shown some stuff. There's some, they're called Aura discs. Aura Vision. Yeah. And they're essentially they're records. Right, vinyl records, but also like a baseball card, and you play it. And I've done that a few times. Where my whole video will be playing one of those records, and I'll just show cards while the record's playing because the record will be like Ernie Banks being interviewed. You can't hear it anymore. So it's an old and just that vintage crackly, like, all right, this is one of the legends, one of the greats, just talking about, hey, here's how you hit. Yeah. Like, oh man, and that I used to do stuff like that. But I need to get better about it, though, because there's some channels that really do these players some justice. I feel like sometimes I take the lazy way out and just like, hey, here's a card. Look at it. And, of course, you've all seen now. This is – am I centered? Am I – like, so, yeah. If you like getting nauseous, watch my video. But I appreciate the kind words, though, man. And like I say, yours is awesome, too. You've actually got – I love the – so one of the things, too, that got me on yours was the podcast element of it, because I primarily listen to podcasts. I walk a lot. I try to walk every day, 5-6 miles, whatever. And I listen to a lot of podcasts, and they're almost all either hockey related or baseball related or fantasy hockey or baseball related, either one. And I love that. I love that aspect of it. So that was one of the cool things too. But you had that perfect hybrid of like, this is part podcast, part now let's rip some cards, and part let's look at the, and I love that. That's awesome. That is awesome.
Well, thank you very much for the all the nice words and positive feedback, David. I really appreciate that. Yeah.
Plus, I got to keep up international relations, right? Like we got in these tumultuous times. On the brink of World War III. I'm doing my small part to take two countries that have always been friendly. Yeah. To be honest. And, but anyway.
Yeah. And just before we wrap up here, also to anyone who's made it this far through the episode and is still listening to us rambling on about cards. Yeah. Yeah. David is part of our community and Hockeycards.se community. So if you want to see more of David's cards, of course, check out his YouTube channel. The link is in the description of the YouTube video. But if you want to chat more with him about cards or watch his mail days or hang out in chat while we rip some boxes, then join our Facebook group as well. Facebook group is called Hockeycards.se, and you're more than welcome to join. It's set up with a lot of people who are quite new to the hobby and a lot of people who has been around for a while, veterans to the hobby as well. So who like to share. So, and you can meet David there. So thank you for being there, David.
Oh yeah. Well, hey, listen, huge shout out to you. You literally, your channel is the only reason I got back on Facebook. I dropped that good book a long time ago, and that got me back on it, wanting to see your stuff, wanting to see, and the people in that group are so nice, but they post some amazing stuff. as like I was telling you earlier, man, I'm almost got like card envy. Like I don't want to show my little rinky-dink cards compared to what some of these guys post. You know, but no, it's all fun. I love it. When I can hop in the breaks and watch it live, I try to, but you know, the 6-hour time difference makes that difficult for sure.
Yeah.
Because I'm usually at work when you're doing
it.
So
which is probably a good idea that you are at work and you don't ditch work to join the breaks. I think that's probably a wise personal decision, I think.
Yeah, that last one though that I was in though, where I had to go to court.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in court and I'm just bored sitting there waiting. So I don't have any sound on, but I'm watching you rip these cards and I'm like, all right, where's the Preds? I have the Preds in this break. And then you pulled that Ryan O'Reilly, that thing that I didn't even know what it was. And it was these, and I'm like, I'm wanting to like say something. I'm wanting to like, but whatever.
Yeah, you got a massive hit for you in that break with a Fanimation card.
Yeah. Now, if only the Preds could actually win a game, that'd be nice. But well, thank you so much again. I really appreciate it. You doing this and having me on. I'm honored.
Thank you very much for being on, David. It's been very interesting to hear about you and how you collect and how you got started. And please, everyone, check out David's YouTube channel. The link is in the description. So thank you so much, David.
Thanks again.